Hi, my name is Paul Lyons. I'm a physician and epileptologist. I'm the medical director, the founding director of the Virginia Comprehensive Epilepsy Program in Winchester, Virginia. We see babies and children and adults with epilepsy, and we're able to provide a spectrum of services, including diet, medications, clinical trials, and epilepsy surgery. In terms of relationships, there's no particular special formula besides having a trusting relationship, but commonly and anecdotally, it's usually after the third date that people feel confident in sharing such information. I see that typically when my patients start dating someone, so typically a longer-term relationship, when there's been a few dates and they have a commitment to each other, more common than not, they'll actually bring their boyfriend or girlfriend to the clinic appointment. They'll initially have a discussion about that they have seizures. Commonly, it involves a parent, in the case of an adolescent, to talk a bit more about the history of the seizures and the epilepsy. So first and foremost, it probably involves a trusting relationship that's going to be longer term. And second would be honesty. And then thirdly, having them be involved in disease management, or at least disease awareness. It depends upon the relationship. As when an adult who's married develops epilepsy as a new diagnosis, that's a different discussion, because in that process, the relationship, though still loving and one of two partners, it does change in that one has now become a caregiver. So one would be cognizant of that the role that they might have as being a caregiver, and some of the importance of that, some of the burdens that might place upon them and the relationship and how that might change, and being aware of that. If it's a new relationship between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, I'll talk about, importantly, definitions. What is epilepsy? What are seizures? How are they correlated? What are some of the side effects of medications, and what are the goals of seizure treatment? So the conversation I might have with the partner, loved one, would really depend upon their role. It's always great to have a second set of ears or a second voice to advocate. So if at all possible, I recommend all of us bring a loved one or a trusted individual or a friend to our doctor's appointments, just to be a second set of ears to hear things and ask questions, particularly if a patient might be uncomfortable with certain topics, such as intimacy or mood, or things that they may not feel comfortable directly discussing, but certainly want to hear information on. Looking at the literature on sexual dysfunction epilepsy, up to a third to two-thirds of all patients with epilepsy will report some type of sexual dysfunction. The most common type of sexual dysfunction among men and women with epilepsy would be hyposexuality. So for, again, a disease that impacts all elements of us as, let's say, adults, where it can impact autonomy, vocational, avocational activity, and sense of safety, and our ability to go out in public and feel as if we're able to make it home ourselves safe and not wake up in the ER. Trying to have a trusting relationship with your clinician, your physician, your neurologist, your epileptologist, the person to help you navigate the disease course to achieve seizure freedom. Make sure that you are comfortable expressing all the ways, all the multifaceted ways in which epilepsy impacts you as a person, including all the elements that we talked today.
Well, we started dating for a while, but I was open to her, and I told her about, I don't know, was it the first, no, it wasn't the first time, fourth, we didn't keep count, but we stayed open.
I would say within a couple months.
And I told her I had epilepsy, and of course she was like, okay, what's epilepsy? And I told her it's no big deal. She didn't know.
Right, and he said it was controlled by medication, so I didn't really know what epilepsy was. I'd never seen a seizure, and so we were just being friends, and when he's telling me that and he's open, and I thought, well, he's on medication, just like you take I asked him for a headache, you're going to be fine, and but I had no idea that, it wasn't controlled. I mean, the medication.
Yeah, that first seizure I had scared the heck out of her.
it was scary because I didn't know what was going on. He just his face started to get pale and his eyes started going back in his head, and he started to shake a little bit, and his head started turning like this and kept going and going. I said, I didn't know what was going on. It was scary. I'm in the house by myself, and my goodness, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Then he starts going into a full-blown seizure. The first one I've ever seen, and it was just scary. I didn't know how to handle it. And I called his brother, and he kind of talked me through it and said, just be calm, he's going to be okay. I'm coming right over. And he said, don't worry about it. And I said, what is he doing now? He's asleep. He sleeps it off, you know. I was a little bit educated too by going to the support group meetings, hearing what everybody says and what Tom was saying. In the beginning, it was challenging because I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay in this relationship. You know, even my dad talked to me, you know, somebody, you know, he has an illness. My dad didn't understand, my mom didn't understand it, but I knew he was for real. I mean, he's not somebody that just sits back on you. He's very uplifting and positive. He's a
Oh gosh, you make my head too big. Won't be able to walk out the door now.
He's a fighter. He doesn't give up. He would try to, I mean, even when he tried to get these little piddly jobs, nobody gave him a chance. You know, he's had education. He's very educated.
Including kindergarten, I got 19 years of education. So tell you, I can hold my paintbrush pretty darn good.
And he just didn't give up. I mean, he's ready to work, and he couldn't drive, so I was his chauffeur. You know, driving.
I told her how to drive.
But when I couldn't drive, I was working or taking care of the kids in schoolwork and stuff. But he would get out and get on the bus. He'd be the only one on the bus sometimes, going to jobs.
Or going to ride the bus.
Stuffing envelopes, whatever it takes to support the family. And he just...
And I was a good house husband.
Yes,
She was
very
a
much.
money carrier, I was a house husband.
You talking, I didn't need a housekeeper. I called him home, you know, clean, and I think he's done very well. And then he picked up
Thank you.
business. You know, he took business administration, and he just took the paint business and went with it. And he never had a crew, so he figured, you know, after the surgeries, the walls didn't talk back to him, so he could just...
My mind could get back rewired since the walls don't talk.
Yeah. When I show that he cares, and he shows love and respect and understanding, and somebody that tries and keeps going, what he's been going through, I said, this man's incredible.
My name is Justice Bartley. I used to play for UVA's men's basketball team. I'm a current millennial, you know, trying to navigate through life through COVID, like everyone else. As a young kid, you know, when I was in middle school, it was great. You know, I was always a kid that would, you know, I'm so outgoing, but at the same time, I like spending time by myself. You know, like, I'm kind of like in the middle, a cross between an introvert and an extrovert. And that all changed once I started having my seizures. And after, you know, spending time away from my friends and family when I was in the hospital, and I come back with this diagnosis of having epilepsy at 13, no child wants to go through, you know, another, you know, added piece to transitioning from, you know, being a kid to like, oh, I'm about to, you know, go into high school next year. So it was something that's definitely shaped how I think about relationships and you know, just how they formed over the past few years, or how they formed just over the years in general, because it always felt like I was distant, or it always felt like there's this secret about me that I can't share with my friends, because if I do share it with my friends, they're gonna feel some type of way about it. I remember when I was in high school, and after I got back on the basketball court, as I journeyed through, you know, the recruiting process and playing AAU basketball, or even just being on the high school basketball team, whenever I would meet new guys on the team, or whenever I would whenever I would become a new member on a team, it was like this big elephant in the room, because I knew I had to tell my coaches and the players about my condition, but I was always nervous about how they would respond. I know for myself today that on the next team that I become involved with and engaged with, that's something that I definitely want to address, and I want others to know. One, so that they can be on the lookout for my own safety. And over the years, I've learned to hold myself accountable, but it's always great for others to know, be aware, so that in the case that something does happen, that they can do the right steps, and they can take the right steps to help me, and to also help themselves. That brings me to the next most important part about telling someone. And that's because I get to take that opportunity to share with them what the condition is actually like, to not fact check them, but to put them at ease of what my condition is like and what to be on the lookout for. And it kind of gives me, a little chance to, show like the facts that I do know about epilepsy, because that means that I'll know more about myself and my journey. I really had to understand that in life, I won't be able to control everything. And that kind of gave me a sense of happiness, because it felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders through that. I started thinking about the other alternatives, or the other ways I can get involved in certain organizations, or putting my time somewhere else. I can't focus so much on that one speed bump, because if I focus so much on that one thing, I forget to look up and look at everything else.